Hey, welcome to the Story Studio podcast. Today we're going to talk about how to make shitty ideas good ideas or something. Like we'll have to see how this shakes out. But the idea of kind of a ridiculous premise or something that shouldn't be good and then it is good. I think that we've all seen movies that...
Yeah, it was born in the last episode because Dave was talking about the Ouija movie, which...
not just the Ouija movie. It's a sequel to a very mediocre horror franchise to begin with. So the starting material that it's redundant on is already kind of ridiculous.
Right. And so okay, wait. So you're telling me that the sequel to the Ouija movie is something I should make time for, Dave?
I mean, it's a little like if he had said Child's Play 7. Like, dude, you got to trust me. I know one was okay, 2 through 6 like, were a little shitty, but the 7th one is a masterpiece.
Well, along those lines, another doll movie, because I really don't like horror doll movies. The first Annabelle movie was whatever. The second Annabelle movie, like the origin story, was phenomenal. It was amazingly great. And I think one of the things that a lot of these things that should suck and they don't suck, what they have in common is great character work. And that's something that I think when a movie or a book puts idea over character and we got this really cool idea, we're going to do a doll that kills people and shit. It sucks. It just falls apart because there's not the right characters aren't in it. You don't believe these characters. But when you start with the characters first and you say, why does this happen? What is the origin of this? What are the motivations of these people? When you think about the why and the what and the characters and you actually explore it in a good way, you turn something shitty into something great.
Yeah, so basically we're talking about good movies or good books or good with a terrible premise.
Or TV.
Like it's just the dumbest premise, right?
I thought of another one, Better Call Saul. That should not have worked.
I hear you on that. But
it's not a terrible premise, and it had precedent.
And it's spinning off a really good series. I see where you're going with that, but
that really shouldn't have worked though, because you take one of the best series ever made, Breaking Bad, and they ink a deal to do a follow up, and they didn't even know what it was going to be. Well, we'll just do something. Maybe it'll be a half-hour sitcom with the comic character. And I love Bob Odenkirk, but I did not have faith that would be a thing that would actually work. And holy shit, did it work.
Yeah, I totally do hear you, but I'm saying, like, what are some concepts that because you have pedigree there. You've got Vince Gilligan, you've got a great writer's room, you have characters people love. So I do hear you because there was doubt. I remember this is so classic Sean and Dave. That Better Call Saul was announced, and I was like, "This is going to be awesome," and Dave's like, "This is going to be terrible." And like we had just heard the news at about the same time, and we're like excited.
Well, one of the strong rumors at the time was that it was going to be a half-hour sitcom, and I remember. Still think that would have been awful.
You know what? They would have pulled it off. Whatever, like it wouldn't have been a laugh track chuckle fest. It wouldn't have been. It would have been like there's a lot of really great 30-minute comedies on Netflix.
Yeah.
And like the format has changed. And if there was a 30-minute version of Better Call Saul that was a little more like he is played as more of a comedic character in Breaking Bad than he is in Better Call Saul. In Better Call Saul, he's more of a tragic figure because he's the lead. And so that makes sense. But as far as movies that are just like, okay, well, or TV shows that absolutely shouldn't work, but they just kind of do, that I don't even mean things like Showgirls or something, which is so bad it's fun to watch. Like, that's not even what I mean. I mean, the concept itself is flawed.
Well, I think it really stands out when something has been done poorly in the past and then it's remade, because then it's really stark. Then it's like, oh, that shitty old thing that somehow somebody made it awesome. Somebody made a remake and made it awesome.
Okay, like It. So It.
Yes, It is a great idea.
Like the 80s It with Tim Curry is so terrible. Like, I really, really hated it. And that's one of those books that I just loved as a kid. Like, I really, really loved it. And then to see what they did, it was just really disappointing. Like, You know,
I think that's true of a lot of the ABC
80s
miniseries
Stephen King
of
stuff.
the 80s and 90s. It was really bad, and I don't know. I feel like they were cashing in on the name more than they were really developing something and
But that
using
was
using the strength of television. Like, well, how could we make this better or different than the source material in a way, instead of just cashing in and make a 3-night event?
Do you remember the 3-hour or the 3-day event for The Stand that had Parker Lewis Can't Lose in it?
Oh God, Corin Nemec.
Why do you know his name?
I remember odd shit.
I know his name because he was in Clarissa Explains It All. He was synchronized swatches.
All right, I got a good remake. That's this is a remake of a shit movie with a not very good plot that was remade and done with style and made a shit ton of money and was really well done. Is Ocean's 11. So have either of you ever seen the original?
No. Was Frank Sinatra in it?
Yes. It's a really terrible Frank Sinatra Rat Pack movie.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
Was it good at the time? I mean,
no. Here's what's funny. I didn't know it was a remake. So I did. I read it was a remake. This is before Haley was born. So I went to the movies every Friday and was always reading Entertainment Weekly and was really into film. And I really like Soderbergh. So I remember telling my dad, hey, Soderbergh is remaking this movie called Ocean's 11. Have you ever heard of it? And he turns to me and he goes, that piece of crap? Why would anybody remake that? That was his reaction to this. And so
it's like remaking Elvis's Blue Hawaii or something.
Right. It just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But if you look at Ocean's 11, that movie crackles, right? It has so much verve and personality, and it's a remake that is just having a lot of fun. And that's cool when you can see that the filmmaker and the people involved are having fun, and it's really evident in that pretty much every scene of that movie. You could feel the energy. So that's a good example of what I mean. Terrible idea. It actually had it was just an excuse to get the Rat Pack together the first time.
Right. People will buy this.
Right. So the bad idea, not very well executed. It's a bad idea to remake it on paper, but you got somebody like Soderbergh who loves his craft, knows exactly what he's doing, and has, one of the best Rolodexes in the business, and was able to get, George Clooney and Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts and Andy Garcia and whoever else is in that, Don Cheadle, like Bernie Mac. There was so many great people in that movie.
I think a good idea. Well, it's hard to say it's a bad idea. And speaking generally of comic books, good and bad, but Marvel had some really bad missteps with TV shows in the 70s. They had a Spider-Man show.
That Spider-Man show was bad.
I liked it when I was a kid just because it was Spider-Man. I fucking love the comic book.
They couldn't do web,
right,
so
right.
He would throw rope.
And the Captain America show was awful. And there were a lot of different awful shows. The cartoons are always okay, from what I remember. But then Netflix, came around and they inked a deal with Marvel to develop these shows, and they could have been bad. I mean, the source material is good. The comic books are good, and there's some great writing.
They could have taken the easy way out for sure.
Right, they could have, but they didn't. And I think the difference is that they weren't just using the name and the idea for credibility, which they could have done because it was when. Well, I don't know how early it was in Netflix's streaming. Their development of TV shows. I don't know how early Marvel was compared to some of the other stuff. It feels like it was early though. But I mean, they could have just said, well, we got Marvel, we got these heroes, so just come watch it. But no, they actually invested in the world and the characters, and they cared about it. They cared about the source material. They developed these great shows. I mean, some are better than others, and we talked about, off air how, that's coming to an end, but for a while it really, really worked. And I think they could have done anything, but they really invested. You felt like these people were real.
How much of those have you seen, Dave?
I've seen all the first seasons. I didn't finish Defenders. I saw all of Daredevil. And I like that the most of all of them. I saw the first season of Iron Fist, and that felt like the weakest one. I like Jessica Jones. I like Luke Cage. I haven't seen the second season yet. But yeah, I like most of what I saw.
I saw 2 Daredevils, 1 Jessica Jones, and that was it.
Oh, and Punisher. I fucking love Punisher. I hope that wasn't canceled. Well, no, they got one more season that's gonna come out. So
yeah, the Punisher for me, I really really liked what they did in Daredevil, but I didn't make it over to his own show.
oh, it was really good. I loved it. So.
I'll check it out. I will. Like, makes sense. Okay, I got one. That's a terrible idea. When I first heard of it, I was like, okay, no way. That's the worst idea ever. And then I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Angry Birds movie?
No, but that's similar. Like that is kind of where I'm going. Because you shouldn't base let's see if you guys can guess. You shouldn't base a movie on a game like that. I mean, because a video game is fine if it's a narrative video game. Angry Birds is not such a thing.
Tron?
No. Or
Tron
a ride. How about a ride?
Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yes.
I've never seen that, actually.
Okay, they get a little ridiculous, but the first one, like, I heard that they were making this, and like the original trailer was like a joke to me because it came out, it was all like pomp and circumstance and like swelly music and a beach. And then, like, the sand sweeps away. This is Pirates of the Caribbean, brought to you by Jerry Bruckheimer. And, like, I thought that was so funny. Like, Jerry Bruckheimer's making a movie based on a Disneyland ride. And then I ended up seeing it, like, in the theater. And, you know, the moment, like, Jack Sparrow steps off the ship and there's just, like, this classic character is born. Nothing about that movie should work. The ideas are terrible. And Johnny Depp as like a drunk Keith Richards like pirate with mascara is just like that shouldn't work, and it totally
it works in his daily life, so why wouldn't it work in the movies?
Well, it worked really really well, and obviously it didn't work after that. They've got like the Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy. I never saw it, but apparently that was as bad as it looks. You know, and on. But Pirates of the Caribbean, like. Okay, that's cool. You took a really bad idea and did something special with it.
One franchise that I really liked the first movie when it was new, and I remember thinking, why are they rebooting that? Was Batman. I really liked the original Tim Burton Batman with Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I remember thinking that was awesome. And I went back and watched that recently after having.
Awesome, dude.
No, it really isn't. And I don't know if I was just a teenager and it was like Tim Burton does Batman. Like that's really awesome. That's really
what
cool.
It was for me.
Jack Nicholson too. Like, you know, he's just it had a good pedigree and it didn't quite work. But at the time I remember thinking it was awesome. But it works either way from my argument here, because then when Nolan came and did Batman Begins, it was like, oh, okay. And this is how it's done.
Those are the only DC movies that I've enjoyed other than the one Wonder Woman movie. Everything else I've seen from DC so far, this is fucking lame.
Right. Yeah. No,
I got a good one. Planet of the Apes.
Oh. I fucking love the remake so much. Did you see the last one? Did you see all of them?
No, I don't actually think I've seen any of them, but I saw the originals with like Roddy McDowall where they're just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that's really great because Planet of the Apes, stupid idea, but kind of awesome. The first one is awesome. You got that ending. That's one of the classic endings of all time.
It's a good sci-fi movie. It's really campy, I think.
Yes.
Because of the some of the acting and some of the goofy masks and stuff.
But where they have special effects now, and the first one, and the way Caesar is born, like okay.
And they take the characters way more serious now, and they create a mythos and a world that you actually are involved in. I loved every one of those movies.
Well, so let's dissect it.
I think they got better.
Let's dissect it, though. Like, what do you think, if you had to put your finger on why Planet of the Apes, why the old ones didn't work and the new ones do, what is it?
Well, it's character, first of all. I think the old ones actually do work thematically because they have that, this is where we destroyed ourselves. This is what we were. I mean, it's like what
I think they worked back then. Standards were a little different then.
Well, so that's actually a separate question, though.
Me, you damn dirty.
That's actually a separate question, though, because is it just because it feels a little hollow to me to say that, well, it's new, therefore it's better. And I know that that's an extreme example of what we're saying. So it's got to be more than that. Like when
it's not that it's new. It's that it's because it's new and modern audiences are more demanding Our TV at home is better. Our experiences at the theater have to be pretty magnificent to get us out of our asses, in our cars, and into another place to put our asses down.
But what about classic movies or movies that are like, say, 30, 40 years old that still really work and work almost contemporarily? So the example I would give here is...
Sci-fi is harder, right? Because sci-fi is building a future world. So,
well, sci-fi seems to fail to me when they predict the future and they're wrong. So if they predict the future and they... yeah. So you know how, like, if you ever watch Mythbusters and the myth is either busted, confirmed, or plausible, there's that middle one where it's like, that's the way I feel about sci-fi is if basically in this example, if you're busted, if you predict a future and you're wrong, you look stupid. If you predict a future and you're right, then okay, you look prophetic, but also normal. It's when I think it's still plausible. So like a movie like Alien. Okay, well, so there's nothing in that could be proved or disproved. It's out in space. It's an alien. Like I buy Alien, which is 1979, as much today as I did back, I assume, in 1979, if I had been around.
Blade Runner worked in 82 or 84 or whatever.
That's true. Blade Runner is another good one. I wonder why that is. Because it's not so crazy as to, it's like a mild dystopia. They do give a year.
Well, yes, but the difference is with, I think that Dave actually hit it, is that there's a camp to Planet of the Apes, and they got worse. The first one is the least campy, but they get pretty campy. And that first one, even, it starts out a little more brutal, where the humans are running and they're catching them. But like the moment you actually see one of the apes and they're interacting and it's obviously a rubber mask, like we didn't have, Rick Baker, we didn't have Creature Shop. Like it was a different time.
The CGI, Andy Serkis is the actor that did
everything.
Well, I don't know if he did everything. He did at least the main ape and maybe a few more.
No. I mean every amazing motion capture.
Oh yeah. He did Gollum and
that you've seen has been Andy Serkis.
And he's done a lot of video games too. Yeah. And he's just a phenomenal actor. And mostly he's not even known because he's always
he is one of the best actors in the world.
A motion capture actor is what he is. Although I think he's been as a human in a few movies.
Yeah, he was the bad. Forget his character's name, but if you saw Black Panther, the guy with the arm, like that was Andy Serkis.
Oh, okay.
He's also he's a super good actor. If you've ever seen 13 Going on 30 with Jennifer Garner, he's Jennifer Garner's super gay boss. Like he's a fantastic actor. He's a chameleon and has body movement. He played King Kong. I mean Gollum. Pretty much any amazing motion capture performance that you noticed in the last 15 years since Lord of the Rings, it's that dude.
He was in a video game called Enslaved Odyssey to the West, which is like one of those games that kind of never found an audience because it came out right around the time the first Red Dead came out, if I remember correctly. And it's such a shame because he made that game, like his acting in it, in the motion capture, and just the nuance that he brought to an otherwise a character that would be forgettable in many circumstances, just truly made the game better than what it should have been.
What about Clue?
Did they remake Clue?
I've never seen that.
No, but
you mean the fact that they based it on a board? They
based it on a board game, and it's a.
Call me crazy. I like that movie.
I like that movie too, and we watched it a couple.
A good use of Tim Curry.
Yeah, it holds up. I mean, it definitely feels a little dated.
Rocky Horror is the best use of Tim Curry.
But Clue is a good example of just a really bad idea. Let's make a movie based on the Clue board game. Okay, that's already bad. That should never ever have gotten a green light.
Didn't they do a movie for Battleship?
Yes, but apparently that was terrible.
But it was terrible. Who did it have in it? It had Rihanna or someone in it. Like it was not good. I never saw it. I have no idea. But yeah, they did a whole thing where they were for a while trying to adapt rides and video games, or not rides and video games, rides and board games. They've been trying to get a Monopoly movie going forever.
Oh God!
And it always falls through.
Well, one movie I think was good for what it was. The Trolls cartoon movie. You got these Trolls dolls from the 60s.
I agree with that.
And they made it into a sweet movie with like a good message. I mean, I didn't love it, but it was certainly way better than the source material. Yeah, they didn't have a 5-minute piss scene. That makes every movie better, by the way.
It really does. I'm sad that not every movie has not just pissing, but birds pissing.
I remember Schindler's List, the director's cut that was uncut, had a 5-minute pissing scene, and it really made the difference.
Girl in the red, it's the little girl in red, right? She just stops and
she peed red. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Just gonna maybe redirect on this.
That was not necessary.
Yeah. So
you went there, not me.
So would you say that?
Wait, I actually think you brought up Schindler's List.
But you made it a little girl. So,
okay,
I mean,
stop.
That's where the level is.
Because she's the only red in the movie.
Just stop. Just be done.
Pee's yellow. If your pee's red, then you got problems.
So would you say
trying to maintain control?
Because you just keep beating it. Just keep beating it. I like to watch Dave digging himself in deeper, though. That is fun. Well, no, on Worst Show Ever, where you try to apologize and backpedal out of something. So what about character? More intelligent character,
more
not over the top character.
I think that the quality of entertainment the quality of average entertainment has gone up a lot. Now, there's a lot of people who say they don't make movies like they used to.
No, they make them better.
Right. Well,
yeah.
If we're just talking production values, there's no question. We're better. We're more sophisticated. We're more demanding. Our TVs are better. All of it's better. And so we are more accepting. And I think that, or less accepting of mediocrity in that way. Like maybe when it comes to scripts or there are some things that I think that we're not as critical as maybe we should be as a culture. But as far as like production values, we have a much higher standard now than we did before. And so they take that seriously. They take the source material more seriously. So when they were rebooting Planet of the Apes, they had to look at that and say, how do we actually make this believable and not stupid? And they did. I believed that when that first remake, I believed that, okay, this is how this all actually happened.
And well, I don't remember the Planet of the Apes movies because I saw them when I was a kid, and I just remember thinking they were goofy. But I don't remember feeling sympathetic towards the apes, and you do in the movies. And I think that's one of the areas where books, TV, movie, and all of that, they create not necessarily always sympathetic, but they create villains or another character that's opposing yours. They create them in a very believable way. They give them a backstory, and you can believe it. You can like it makes sense. It's not just some mustache twirling thing like you saw in the older movies where it was just that's not very believable. That's not real life. That's not how things really work.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that's one of the things like I think Marvel did really well. Like what do you call it? Kingpin in Daredevil. He's in season 1 and 4. He's great as a villain because you see his backstory, how he came to be, and even though he's this monster, you're like, you love the show more because it's more in depth with him.
Yeah, I was going to play off of your thing about when you said that's not how it really works, is because one of the comments that I was going to make is it seems like we have a decreased desire for, say, star power and sizzle. I mean, we still need it, obviously, but notice how many more good. We were just talking about Hill House on the last episode, the spoiler-filled last episode, and most of those people don't really have. They aren't like big names. They didn't cast Tom Cruise in that, and even the performances that we're getting, I think, on a whole, are more. They're just more believable. They're like, we aren't getting as many crazy over the top characters unless we explain why they're crazy and over the top, and we then believe it. If that makes any sense, it's more of like it's less glitzy, I think, than we're starting to see. We're getting more understated movies that then have spectacle in other ways.
Go ahead.
Well, if you look at how they rebooted Bond, I think that speaks to exactly Johnny's point.
Yeah.
So the old Bond was about like the set pieces and the spectacle and the mustache.
He was always right. He was always diving under the ice in his tuxedo.
Right. And now if you look at do you know the origin story supposedly of how Bond got this like gritty reboot?
No.
Either. So apparently Tarantino actually pitched making a Bond movie, and this is before Daniel Craig. This is after Pierce Brosnan's last one, and he actually got a meeting with the Broccoli family and went in there and was like trying to like not wrestle control, but like, look, I will make a remake. It wasn't just a Bond movie he was pitching. It was a remake of Casino Royale, which is what they ended up going with. And look, you can't have a pretty boy. You got to have a real Bond. You got to bring it back to, like make it feel real. And he basically pitched the version of Casino Royale that they ended up making, but not a Tarantino version. And for a while, he was like just 5 minutes. He was attached to the project, and there was going to be a Tarantino Bond, which I think would have been pretty awesome. Like, I don't know what it would have been, but it would have been awesome. And they just decided that it was the project would be too Tarantino and not enough Bond. And
it would have been like The Kingsman, probably.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
I think it would have been fun, and but that didn't happen. And it's kind of interesting now that whatever it is, 10 years later, they're going to give him Paramount's going to give him the chance to do Star Trek, and they're not so worried that it's going to be a Tarantino Star Trek, which it totally will be. But that's exciting.
So, well, I want to go back to what Johnny was saying about Tom Cruise. Interestingly, speaking of reboots that didn't work, The Mummy.
Yeah,
I think it was.
I never saw that. Did you see it?
I didn't see it, but I heard it was really bad.
I heard it was bad, but I never saw
it. And it's Universal, I believe, that has the rights to it. And they had the rights.
They've been trying to reboot Monsters for a while.
Well, and the thing they were going to do was, they wanted to follow Marvel's lead and create this connected universe using all these classic monster movies, where the source material was questionable on a lot of them, and they were going to make these good movies that would all be interconnected, create a universal world, basically. And they got Tom Cruise, big name, attached to the project. And from, everything I've heard, he kind of ruined it and destroyed it. And the movie that was going to be made wasn't the movie that was made because of his basically taking over. And the movie flopped, and with it flopped their plans for this interconnected sort of. I mean, they could have had like a big Marvel thing going on. I would love to see a monsters.
I'd love that too.
Interconnected world that could be really good.
It could be great, and Universal has been trying for a long time to make that happen, because for those of you who don't know, Universal owns all the old monsters. They own Frankenstein and Wolfman and Creature from the Black Lagoon. Whatever the IP rights to make movies on those characters are, Universal owns them. So
I would love to see a remake of Jekyll and Hyde. There was a TV show called Jekyll or Hyde. I don't remember. That was fucking phenomenal.
I would love a remake of Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah.
See, now I really liked. I mean, when they did Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman, that was an interesting take, I thought, on Dracula. I think it holds up. Yeah, I think it holds up.
It had Keanu in it. That was Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it did. All
right, so do you guys want to try taking a ridiculous idea and making it awesome?
Do we have time to do that?
No. I mean, that's a fun way.
Throw a few ideas out.
Okay, Pong the movie.
Okay, I actually like this. I think you might be joking.
Okay, so
the first thing is, how do we build up to the ball pissing for?
Wait. Okay. Here's a good example, because I actually saw Pong had like a little throwaway scene in Ralph Breaks the Internet, which I saw last weekend.
I love that. I didn't love it. I liked it. I saw.
Don't spoil it. We're gonna go see it.
Okay, all right. So this is actually in that vein of exactly what we're talking about, because I saw the Ralph Breaks. I loved Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
Lego Movie is another one of those bad ideas.
Oh yeah.
Brilliant execution, right?
Yep.
Brilliant execution on Legos, but that shouldn't have been a movie that existed. Even I should have never got past the pitch room.
I think all the Lego movies are pretty good.
Yeah, so they that's something where they treat it seriously. Okay, we're gonna make a Lego movie. What's the best Lego movie in the world we can make? So Wreck-It Ralph is like that, where I think that what we saw now with Ralph Breaks the Internet is basically a very similar in concept movie to the Emoji Movie from last year, which was terrible and like a total
Austin
joke.
And his friends watch that every once in a while because it's so terrible.
But it has a tender story that it's really good.
Right, because it's all
about the poop.
No, not Emoji Movie. The Ralph Breaks the Internet.
But that's exactly it. Like there's in Wreck-It Ralph, we care, and so all of like it's a bad idea to try to fit the internet into a movie and even call it Ralph Breaks the Internet and have a movie about memes. And
that's going to be dated in 5 minutes.
Yes, it should not work, but it totally does. And oh my God, we could talk about it later after air. I don't want to waste much time, but that princess scene,
yeah,
it's so good. It's just so good. So yeah, okay, so Pong. How would Pong be awesome?
Well, Pong isn't that different from how Battleship must have been pitched, right? So
everybody was drunk, really drunk.
So how far can we stay? Because if you make a movie like Stray, because if you make a movie like Resident Evil, there is a plot line. It's there's story there, or any modern video game movie. But
right, we have the worst raw materials in history. So
right. So, but like look at Battleship. So again, I haven't seen Battleship, but from what I understand, it just had to have a battleship in it. Like it's not like it was people playing the game with the pegs and
right. So Pong.
So can we just have things? Can there be like a Pong tournament or something?
So
and,
are we making them tennis players? Are we?
Well, I think it still has
the easy route.
I think it still has to be Pong, unless it's like, well, it depends. Maybe. What if it's a story about somebody who wants to upgrade Pong and it's like a Steve Jobs type of story?
Well, what if it's somebody who there's a that's stupid. Never mind.
Well, I'm kind of liking the Steve Jobs type story, honestly. Somebody wants to it's meta. Somebody wants to remake Pong, and it's the story about that struggle.
Okay,
and people are sucked into it. Like, what's that popular trend in books now, where people are sucked into a game and stuff?
Oh, you meant sucked into it. You meant sucked into it literally, but I would kind of like the idea of. I thought you meant it figuratively, like they have a really, really, really good creative marketing campaign, and a frenzy builds around Pong, and they're like, motherfuckers, it's just Pong. But
we can do either one.
Did you guys ever see? Here's another terrible idea that did not work out. Did you guys ever see the remake of Bewitched?
No, I noticed a clear of train wreck.
Okay, all right. So no, actually, on paper, this totally should have worked. They were doing that like remaking TV things. Like the Brady Bunch one was kind of fun, right? With Ben Stiller's wife, I forget her name, Christine something. As Marcia. Anyway, they had a couple that were like fine. But oh shit, I lost it. Doesn't matter.
Just like the movie.
Wait. Yeah, what TV show were we just talking about 1 second ago?
Bewitched?
Yes. So Will Ferrell was Darren, and Nicole Kidman was Samantha, which is
so that should work.
That's good casting. But the premise of the Bewitched movie, which is really, really bad, is that the Bewitched TV show actually existed, and they were going to reboot the Bewitched TV show, and they hired this person who actually is a witch, and that's played by Nicole Kidman.
Oh God!
And that's just a really bad idea. Like that,
they should have did. They should have did something with the two Darrens.
They could have done something with the two Darrens. There's
that I would watch.
With there, but they tried to get too clever. So I would be worried about getting too clever with Pong to where you're kind of losing.
No, that's where I think you kind of understand wink wink with the audience. Like I was just making that up, but I kind of like the idea of it being stupid, and it's really about the marketing campaign behind it. It's about this team of genius marketers who get the whole world excited about Pong. It's like that episode of Phineas and Ferb. Did you see it? Where they get the whole world excited about aglets on the end of a shoelace? Something like that.
Well, okay, so do you remember, I mean, this is unpublished now, but that comedy that we wrote, Greens, right?
Yeah.
Where it's exactly the premise. So in Greens, there's this guy who works at it's like a Whole Foods that's in an inner city before they're, about to regentrify, but then the economy collapses and the company doesn't want to pull out because then they'll look racist. So they have to keep this, high-end food store in a place where people are just stealing shit and like there's shopping carts out there and it's terrible. And there's this guy who works there and he wants to make more money, so he's going to sell weed, but he doesn't want the risk of selling weed.
The story's already obsolete because it's in California and weed's legal.
Right. So he just makes up a name. He calls it like Ninja Gaiden, and that's like his strain, and it's just potpourri. But his marketing is so good, he's like, you're so high, you don't even know you're high. And then people keep buying it. And so like, it's exactly
It is
that
like that,
story.
yeah.
It is that story. It's a marketing story. And I actually think like a Pong story could work. You want to
like
it?
I would think something like kind of like how the Disaster Artist was the tone of that almost. Like I could see it being that.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I could see it. You know what would be kind of fun, and maybe this is the last idea, but something that's taken like a mockumentary, but about like the resurgence of Pong and how it took the world by storm. But it's obviously ridiculous, and you have like people waiting like in 4-hour lines just to play Pong, right? And it's obviously not true, but people would be interviewed about like what Pong means to them, and you have like athletes like Michael Jordan, right? It opens with interviews of he says, "Yeah, I never would have been the ball player if I wasn't."
Or they got a celebrity sponsorship from one of these guys, and he has to wear some ridiculous outfit in the commercials that looks like a big white stick.
Yeah, see, I mean, okay, none of these are like genius ideas, but the point is that even the most terrible ideas have some meat to them, and that as a creator, you don't want to spend all your time looking for good ideas. It's a waste of time.
I want to do Bewitched with the other Darren, how he was kidnapped like Old Boy style and kept for 10 years, and then he breaks out and he goes after everyone that destroyed his life, including the new Darren.
I kind of like that idea. Was the new Darren Dick York or the original? I think the original was
I don't remember.
He's dead now.
I think they were both Dick York.
No, Dick York was the original. Dick Sargent was the second guy.
Oh, that's right.
How do you get two dicks to play the guy there?
I think it's because the casting office said, well, we need some dick to play.
We need
Darren.
another dick.
Oh, yeah. And they took him literally. All right. So that was fun. So thanks for listening to the Story Studio podcast. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Adios.
Later.